Fed Chair Powell says interest rates are likely to be higher than previously anticipated. He cited data earlier this year showing that inflation has reversed the declaration it slowed at the end of last year. And that's because people, well, I don't think inflation has slowed down, but people just aren't able to spend money. He warned of a tighter monetary policy ahead to slow a growing economy and said that the current trend shows the Fed's inflation-fighting job is not over. As far as Bitcoin price action goes, Bitcoin is kind of just holding on to about the $22,000 area. You'll see a little bit of spikes up on the lower time frames, et cetera. And I think that we're going to see a lot of stagnation with Bitcoin, or at least that crab sideways action, because we are in a bear market, number one. Number two, we had a bunch of really crazy rumors about different regulations coming out, et cetera. So this is something I think that we can anticipate for quite some time until we have some volatile news that really dramatically changes the market. Ben, I would love to get your take on this story. Do you think that the geriatrics of the United States of America are doing their job?
Well, I certainly don't think the geriatrics of America are doing their job, but I would also question whether there's a relationship these days between inflation news like this and the Bitcoin price. I think the kind of that relationship has broken down a little bit over the years. Obviously, Bitcoin is supposed to be an inflation hedge, i.e., when inflation is going up, Bitcoin is supposed to be going up, and I don't think we quite see that relationship playing out over time. But still, obviously, important news and affects the whole economy.
Yeah, Bitcoin definitely trades like other risky assets, and risky assets, they live and die on one guy's pronouncement from the Federal Reserve. It is pretty crazy. I just think it's crazy that Bitcoin has become that. I mean, it's not new, right? This is something that we've seen play out time and time again as more sophisticated investors jump into the space. Folks who work at big trading firms tend to view Bitcoin similarly to how they would view tech stocks and other things that might be a bit riskier. And I think that's why we see on these, on these Fed days, significant action. But Wendy, you know more. You know more about the charts than I. Take it away.
Well, this is just my opinion. I will say that like the local bottom that we've seen recently was about, I think, like $16,000 for one Bitcoin, which that's a pretty good local bottom. Could it go get lower? Yes. Could it go higher? Yes, is what it is. But at the same time, I will say that my 401k that I was contributing to when I had my 9-to-5 job is currently in the red, and my Bitcoin investment since 2017 has actually outperformed that significantly. So there's that piece of information. I don't think that Bitcoin is necessarily like a hedge against inflation to an extent, but it kind of is, because it is holding a little bit more value than we see a lot of traditional stocks, in my personal opinion. And I kind of feel like could be one of the best chances that the underdogs of the United States of America have against inflation. Go ahead, Zach.
Well, I know I'm putting you on the spot because I know you have long said on this show that Bitcoin would drop south of 10K at some point. Do you still have such dire predictions for Bitcoin? And if so, why?
I think, well, because the markets are very volatile, and I think that we could see another drop. One of the things that I'm thinking now too, like we always talk about the 4-year cycle, Bitcoin halving, et cetera. But now with all the crypto contagion that's happened, we want to kind of take a look at Silvergate. Silvergate Bank did a lot of amazing things in the industry as far as being that big player to give loans and to help entrepreneurism in the crypto ecosystem for Bitcoin companies, crypto companies, whatever that may be. And we're starting to see their decline. A lot of people have a lot of well-known names has essentially pulled out of their partnerships or working or having bank accounts over at Silvergate Bank. And I think the impacts of that, if Silvergate does in fact go down, are going to be long withstanding. And we're going to see a lot more issues with crypto companies. Crypto companies in the United States of America already have a very hard time doing anything regulatory-wise. And we're going to see a lot more people move out of the country. And I do think that could impact Bitcoin in a negative aspect, especially as the markets become more volatile.
Yeah, I hear that. We do have a little clip from our buddy Jerome Powell talking about inflation. Let's hear it real quick, and then we'll pick up this conversation.
Although inflation has been moderating in recent months, the process of getting inflation back down to 2% has a long way to go and is likely to be bumpy. As I mentioned, the latest economic data have come in stronger than expected, which suggests that the ultimate level of interest rates is likely to be higher than previously anticipated. If the totality of the data were to indicate that faster tightening is warranted, we'd be prepared to increase the pace of rate hikes. Restoring price stability will likely require that we maintain a restrictive stance of monetary policy for some time.
All right, so Bitcoin soared in its last bull cycle when we were in a low to no interest rate world. Ben, I'm going to put you on the spot, put on your macroeconomic hat. In a world in which your bank account, your savings account is potentially giving you a nice little chunk of yield, can Bitcoin thrive? What's your take on that?
Well, I think Bitcoin's always going to thrive, and actually, I would argue that this regulatory environment, while cracking down on many crypto projects, could be good for Bitcoin because Bitcoin carries on regardless of the regulatory environment. There's less regulatory risk attached to it. It's functioning in the background, so I think the Bitcoin price is set fair, and I think once we see a more favorable interest rate environment and we see more faith in the market, I think it will return back to where it was, or somewhere near where it was.
All right. And Wendy, quickly putting you on the spot, that sweet interest in your banking account over in TradFi, is Bitcoin going to look as attractive going forward if that's the case, based on what Jerome just said?
I personally wish that I could close all of my bank accounts in the US. I think that they're predatory. I think they're absolutely terrible. But unfortunately, I'm a mom. I've got bills to pay. I'm not about to renounce my citizenship because I got to keep my kid here for her family. But if I could close my accounts and just operate fully off of crypto and Bitcoin, I 100% would. And the interest over the banks is actually a slap in my face personally. The fact that I get, what is it, 0.01% or 0.03% when they're taking my money and they're actually making a lot more money because interest rates keep going up is just kind of an abomination and it's embarrassment. And you know what? That's all I got to say about that before I get too mad.